Hey you all! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Sophia VS Vlog. And you know it, on this channel we talk about career, education and lifestyle. If these are subjects that are of interest to you, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Last week I heard and I know was super amazing, very informative, and this week promises to be another episode of amazing. Yes, this week we are having Christopher on our channel, and Christopher is currently working at Apple. So Christopher is going to tell us about how he got there, what he's been through, and all of that stuff. And you wouldn't want to miss it. You will learn a lot from it. So stay tuned. Let's get to it. Hi Christopher, how are you doing?
Hi, Amelia. I'm doing good. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. So without wasting much time, we are going to go right into our questions and then get them done.
Sure.
So tell us about your educational background and how it prepared you for the job.
My educational background and how it prepared me for my current job. Okay, so I did my high school in St. Thomas Aquinas Senior High School, where I did general science, and back there I thought what I should be doing is medicine. But then I went for a career fair in SHS1. And that was when I realized that in as much as I could do medicine, it wouldn't be something I might really enjoy. But then, so at that point, too, I knew that I really had a thing for physics. So that was when I was like, you know what, engineering wouldn't be a bad thing for me. Like I might end up really enjoying engineering. So fast forward to after high school, I applied to Ashesi University, and then I got admitted to do electrical and electronics engineering at Ashesi University. In my third year of Ashesi University, I got an opportunity to do an accelerated master's program in partnership with Arizona State University for a master's degree in electrical engineering. And then fast forward to that, I got my master's degree in electrical engineering, and I currently work at Apple.
Wow. So if you did medicine, you wouldn't be in Apple now. Yeah.
Nah,
So, yeah.
maybe,
Medicine and Apple. No, I don't think so.
yeah.
Yeah. So how did you prepare for your interview with Apple?
That's a good question. About 2 semesters or a semester before our graduation, I knew it was time for me to start applying for jobs. I knew that the more I wait, the worse it becomes. Because here in the US, it's you could get an offer your last but one semester before you graduate. So I started it, and because I started early, I knew there's some room to fail. Like I could do interviews and it won't go well, and later on when everyone is rushing to get interviews prior to their graduation, at least I would have had some experience with interviewing for jobs, right? So I started off. Resources that helped me were my classmates who so for me, because I did a master's degree. With master's degree, you there's a high chance you would have friends who have worked in industry and are in the same class with you. So then you talk to them, class conversations, it will come up, they will talk about how you have interviews, what online resources you could go get, some likely interview questions, and those helped me, right? But um aside that, some stuff that helped me prepare really well for my interview and feel really good in my own skin. One was reading my class notes. So because I applied for roles in electrical engineering, I recruiters or employers also know that you're a student. So they will tend to want to know whether at least you follow what you're doing in class. So for me, I felt good and more confident after I had read my class notes, and I know that okay, at least I know what I'm supposed to know. If they ask me something I'm not supposed to know, maybe that's when I'll think on the fly. But with my class notes, at least I know them. So that was one. Another thing or another resource that helped me feel more confident for my interviews were friends. So we all have different categories of friends, different groups of friends. Some friends you go and chill with them. Some friends you study with them. Some
Right.
friends different kinds. So I very fortunate for me, I had a roommate who was all of this, right? You chill, study, all the good things. And with him and other friends, I was able to prep for my interviews. And prepping for interviews is when you know how bad you can be with interviews in a very safe space. So for
Right.
me, that's what really helped me. Like you try it a couple of times with your friends, you laugh, you correct yourself, and in the end, you worst case you might not even have a good rehearsal with your roommates or your friends, but then you still feel like okay, now at least I'm at a better position to have the interview. That was one resource. Another way I prepared really well for my interviews was failing some of my interviews. No matter how prepared you are, there's always a first time to some things. In as much as I landed a very amazing job opportunity, there were interviews I failed, and some were very brutal. Like, have you ever had an interview where in the middle of the interview, you failed? Yeah, that happened to me. So
Yes.
exactly. But then for me, the key lesson from those interviews was not to feel good right after the interview, talk to someone who will make me feel good, but rather like I sit down and I diagnose what like like how I can do better the next time. You know. So yeah. In conclusion, it's reading my class,
Okay.
try and prep interview preps with my friends, and then also taking the bold step and then taking some interviews and failing. Yeah.
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 Yeah. You get better when you fail at the interviews because like you know
Exactly.
what you did wrong and then what you are supposed to correct. And that self-evaluation after an interview. It's not like you really have to like feel your best after an interview. There are some interviews I finish and I just sleep, right? Like just
Yeah.
when you wake up you'll be fine. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true.
So you think these things ultimately led you to get an apple, right? Like these basic things like prepping for the interview,
Yeah.
right? Did you get multiple offers? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I did get multiple offers. I had an offer from Micron,
mhm.
from Intel, and an offer from Apple.
That would have been very hard to choose. So, like, if someone is in a situation of having to choose between offers, what are the things you think the person should consider before choosing? Like, making up my mind to join this company because at this point you have a certain sample space that you are choosing from.
So that's a good question. To start, what I'll say is before your offer, you you cannot know so much to know which is the best decision to make. You only know what you know, and there's there's so much that goes into what you want in a job that you might not get. I mean, first thing after I got the offers, like I would occasionally text the hiring manager of the role, and then email them, and then ask if I could have a follow up meeting, to talk about my roles to better understand what I'm supposed to do. And that was basically a way of me trying to get more information about my role. Because, well, I don't know for everybody, but for me, while I was applying for my job, I wasn't really interested in the role. I was more interested in passing the interview and getting my offer.
Mhm.
So it was after I got the offers that I was like, okay, now it's time for me to actually get more information about my roles. So to answer your question properly, um, the things that helped me decide, first thing was the money. You know, I mean, you can love your job so much, but bottom line, you would like it more if the money was better. So for me, one of the key things was the money, whether company A is paying more than company B, what incentives are part of the offer, whether they are giving stocks, how much stocks, sign on bonus, like those things, right?
Mhm.
And it was more of the gap. Like, is it a huge difference? If it's not much, then you you basically annul it. Like So you do an end-to-end comparison. You're like, okay, this versus this, this versus this. So one was the money. Two was the company outlook. So you try and see how the company looks like, because the company will pay you well if they are doing well. Like you'll be, you'll be happy in the company if the company is also looking well. So yeah. So bottom line, I also looked at how they are performing exactly, how good they are in the industry. Like from an industry perspective, how would people consider this company versus that company? The third thing, which was hard for me to know from an interviewee standpoint, was the team dynamic, like how easy it is to work with a team. That was hard, and probably it was the least metric I used. But yeah, so basically I just looked at how the team responded to me, whether they were interested in having me, like whether they will call me, after, like if there was anything cordial, if there was some.
Right.
Yeah. In conclusion, it's the money, the company outlook, and then the team dynamics for me.
So I think for you, you first consider the money because all these three companies are like very good companies in the US, right?
Exactly.
So then you are not looking at the company. But let's say I get an offer from one small, like a company with like 50 to 100 employees on LinkedIn, and then Intel. This way I don't even look at the money. Like
Yeah,
you are looking for that thing with job security. So I think in your case it was a bit easier, though it would be a difficult decision to choose from like the best. But then the money becomes first when they were all good companies, and you really, and one thing that stood out to me was the team dynamics, because from an interviewee perspective that's very hard to determine, right? So
yeah,
but I like the fact that you mentioned if there is that cordial relationship, you know that these people are happy to have me. So at least you are going to have that like effect in the team. Yeah. So you go for interviews and sometimes you have to be reaching out to them constantly just to hear from them. I think that's not a good sign. Especially if you get something that they felt like they made you feel like you are really needed, then you should go in for that.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a good answer right there, yeah.
yeah.
And what skills and qualities do you think are essential for success in the workplace? And how do you continue to develop them?
Okay, first skill or quality I think is essential for doing your best at the workplace is one, asking questions. So I'm asking this for someone in my place, because so I just joined right after school, and right after school I've not had so much industry experience, at least for my team specifically. There are people who have lots of industry experience, and they are working on things they've been working on for long. And no matter how much I know, there's so much I don't know. So what's helping me now is asking questions, like asking so much questions. But then, in as much as I ask so much questions, I have to make sure that I've done my due diligence before asking the questions. So yeah. So to conclude, asking questions. Second skill or quality that's helping me is presenting my ideas concisely. So there's this tendency to always freestyle when you have a conversation, or when you have a presentation with your manager, or with a coworker on something you are working on. But so far for me, what's helping me is the fact that I make sure I at least prep to know how to present what I'm going to present concisely and succinctly. Like I make sure when I'm presenting, they they clearly understand what I'm talking about.
Right.
Because if you think about it, you working as part of working, you are communicating to people what you are working, well, like what you have worked on. If they don't understand what you have worked on, they find it hard to make meaning to what you've worked on to help the company. So, to my third point, working a little bit harder. And For me, maybe it's just how I am, but then because I just started, I like to work a little bit harder because I know I'm not in the same boat as the other members in the team. There's no way I can work efficiently as someone who's been working for 8 years or 10 years or 12.
Mm.
Like there's no way. Like one way I could at least try is to work harder than they would probably do. Right. And so yeah. So how would I continue with this is by getting feedback from them, occasional feedback.
And our last question is, what advice would you give to other recent graduates looking to start a career in engineering, particularly like in the tech industry?
In the tech industry, work on projects. Um, I realized hiring managers like it when you worked on projects, especially if you are coming right out of school. Like work on personal projects. Be someone who looks like you have initiative. Like so work on your own personal interesting projects that you can present to them in your CV or you can talk about during your interviews. That's one. Having internship experience or having some form of experience helps. Um, because and also, also something I want to add is people want to hire hardworking people. If your CV doesn't make you look like you are hardworking, it's hard for them to want to employ you. Like if your CV only has you being very good at one programming language or one programming experience, it's hard.
I think that's a good point because you are trying to say like build an experience and build a good resume, right? So
Yeah,
working on the project is like you are preparing yourself because it's not just any other place you are going to work, like the tech industry where you have to like learn programming languages, like build your own software. So let's say you go for an interview and you have started building something on your own, like that shows a different aspect to you than
yeah,
to other like applicants, right? So I think yeah, it's a
yeah.
good point to like start stuff on your own. What do you think your academic projects played a role in your interview, like the interviews you did?
For me, I realized the project that the hiring managers were more interested in were projects I worked on myself outside of school.
Mm-hmm.
So academic projects are nice, but then it's a plus to you if you have other projects you worked on outside of school that you can talk about. You know,
Okay.
but yeah, but then also just know that in the process of the interview or you applying, you interviewing for the position, they are low key trying to see if you have a skill that once they employ you, they can put you in an ongoing project,
Mm.
right? And for me, that's something I realized. Like I realized while interviewing, especially when you talk to the hiring managers, they will try to see if you have a skill that okay, once they employ you, you'll be good for this project. Like they already have that in mind. So it's
Mm.
like they're trying to fit you in somewhere. If you don't fit in anywhere, then like they probably not give you the offer. There are some rules like rotational programs or actually rotational programs where
You
they
are
just
doing like a holistic training, and
exactly.
then they then find where they want to put you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So those ones highly those ones don't really look at the experience you are coming in with. I mean, they would like it, but then they are not so particular about it. They would like for you to have it, but then they also know they are coming to train you. For those ones, I think they just want you to be smart.
Mm,
And
okay. So like working on projects like it is very vague, right? Is there any project you worked on that you think like helped you? Maybe you built a software on your own or you learned a certain programming language that you feel people really don't know how to use. Like what was that project that thing you think like plays you there? Like even amongst all your interviews across other companies as well. Like what was that project that you think was a highlight, right?
well, I think I did all of the above, but then one that I usually talk about was a web application I created while I was doing my masters in ASU, and It's called Skidio. So
Okay.
the platform's name is called Skidio, and it's still there. I still keep you up and running. And yeah, so that's one. I learned a couple of programming languages. I built a couple of applications, like mobile applications.
Oh.
Yeah, this were all the fun, boring, and nerdy stuff I did.
So like, were you self-motivated, or you did it because like you knew this was what you were supposed to do to like get in a good place?
Yeah, I was so motivated.
Um,
I wasn't trying to beat the system. I was genuinely interested in doing the things,
right,
and then turns out people liked that skill as well. So and it turned out well.
right. I think yeah. It's been long, but then I think this has been helpful. Thank
It's
you, Chris, for coming. This interview was another good interview. Let me tell you what I learned. I learned that self-motivation is very important. So you realize that most of the projects he mentioned, he said he was self-motivated to do them. And that was how he was able to express himself when he got into the interviews, and that made him stand out among the other applicants. So that was a very good point. And the other conversation around choosing among multiple offers, like knowing which metrics you are using, right? So if you got all good companies, very fortunate, and then you can use like metrics like compensation, you can use metrics like team dynamics. So that was another conversation that really stood out to me. Also, he mentioned like prepping interviews. He said he learned through failure. Failing an interview is not bad. Failing an interview is part of the learning process. It builds you and it makes you the better person you want to portray yourself. So like, you have to fail interview to pass an interview. If you did not take anything at all, you need to fail that interview to pass an interview. And that was something that stood out to me. I really really appreciate the interview, and I've learned a lot I'm going to apply in my other interviews. Yes, and I bet you will also learn a lot. Thank you for watching. Please share the link to other people I don't even know, just so that everyone will have access to this very good information. Comment, like, and subscribe. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. There are a lot of good things. Next week we are talking about building a good LinkedIn profile, and that's just not just a LinkedIn profile, but building a good one. So let's look forward to it. Please subscribe. Thank you so much. Bye.